Hey guys, so in this lecture we're going to talk about multiple things. One is of course how the let and the constant impact the global bindings, as well as we'll try to see the best practices, when to use let, when to use constant, and of course summarize our entire discussion on block bindings. So just before we begin, let me just tell you that I've created a very small example out here, and of course I will be as usual sharing all these pen with you along with the lectures. I'd like to tell you that another way in which we can use the let and constant and the way they are different from the var keyword is their global scope behavior. So when variable is used in the global scope, it creates a new global variable, which is a property of the global object, and window in case of browsers. That means accidentally you can override them when you are using the variable keyword. So let's say for example I have two variables, hello and hi. I do a console log of hello and console log of window.hello. So you can see I got two hellos. Similarly, I did for a hi and I got two highs. Now accidentally I can update this. So it's not necessary that I do or do not, but if I accidentally do it, let's say hello equals to, instead of hello, I will make that a lot of O's so that we can see. And now if I do it, both the window object as well as the hello variable both become hello. So this is definitely prone to updating during the variable reassignment. Now even though the variable hello is a globally defined on the window object, it is not safe from being overwritten by a variable. Now this example declares a new global variable. Of course, the moment you do a hello, it declares a new global variable that overrides the original hello variable. And that's the reason you have to be very cautious when using variable. So if you use instead of variable you use a let or a constant, a new binding is created in the global scope, but no property is added to the global object. That also means that you cannot overwrite a global variable using a let or a constant. You can only shadow it. So let's say example, instead of variable, let's remove this and let me make this a let and let me make this a constant. And now if you see, I will see hello and undefined, hi and undefined, which means the objects are not available in the global scope. And I can quickly do a test also. Let's say I just do a console log window hello is triple equals to hello. And the answer should come out as false. See, you can see that's the answer of false, which means the let did not allow it to create another object. And it's only a local object. Similarly, if I do with the hi, it will say the same thing. Another false after the hi. You can see undefined and then a false. So that quickly shows us how let and constant can be easily used to avoid variables creating global variables. Now this capability makes let and constant a lot safer to use in global scope when you don't want to create properties in the global object. Now you may want to still use variable in the global scope if you have a code that should be used across or probably as a global object. This is most common when in the browsers you're trying to access code from frames or windows. That's the best time when you can use a variable. Now, what are the best practices? And let's talk a little bit about what are the learnings that developers see across ES6. So while ES6 was in the development, there was a widespread belief that we should use let by default instead of variable, because of course you can see the benefits of using it. Now for many JavaScript developers, let behaves exactly the way they thought that variables should have behaved, so the direct replacement made logical sense. In this case, you would use constant or const of as a keyword for variables only when the variable did not need any modification. However, as per developers who migrated to ES6, an alternate approach or a pattern that got used to where we use constant const by default for all the variable assignments instead of let. The rationale is that most variables should not change with their values after initialization, because unexpected errors or value changes are a source of bugs. Now this idea has a significant amount of traction and is worth exploring too when you are working with ES6. So maybe when you try to assign or initialize a variable, try to use the constant keyword versus a let or a variable. Use let only when you need to modify a variable, and of course use a variable when you want it to be in the global object. Now in summary, the let and constant keyword block bindings introduce lexical scoping to JavaScript. These declarations are not hoisted and only exist within the block in which they are declared. In many cases, the let and the constant very much behaves like a variable, and of course they are different in certain cases, and they standardize a lot of things which we assume from coming from other languages. I think that was all about let and constant in the global scope, as well as the block bindings and the for loops and probably wherever you want to use them. It was very simple. It was like the basics of ES6. Now that we have learned and discovered what let and constant can do, let's try and explore more about other features in ES6, but that will be in the next video. So I'll see you in the next class.